All right, folks, what's up? Getting back into it. We're here today with another episode of Dabbler's Kitchen with Chef Alex. That was me. And today we have some awesome stuff for you. But first, we're going to start with getting back to our roots. And today, we're going to dabble in a little bit of barbecue. First things first, got to get some gloves on. And much like any person who holds weight and faith in barbecue, the black nitrile are the way to go. So we're going to start this season off with some barbecue, and we're going to start with what put us on the map with Shimpy's Barbecue, and that is our brisket. We have a whole brisket here, bad boy. This is 120. That is the meat code for this cut of meat. It is a whole brisket. That's the flat, that's the point, and this one specifically I bought with decal meat removed, and that's that top aggregate thick meat. But we're still going to trim more of it off because what we want to do is we want to get this down to what is going to render the best quality product coming off of the smoker. If you get one of these, they're great. You can get them at a couple different places. If you have a Costco membership, if you got a BJ's membership, sometimes I find them at Walmart. Sometimes they're at Giant. A lot of the times, if you find them at those grocery stores, they're gonna be fairly expensive. But the big package stores are able to sell them for cheap. So if you can get them and you have a membership to a Costco or a BJ's, a lot of the times they'll sell them for cheap. And a lot of the times Costco will sell prime for what you're able to get choice and select at other places. So worth the membership if you're looking to barbecue some delicious meat. All right. We need to take the plastic off of this bad boy first. Got to undress it real nice like. Got to be gentle. All right, so as I said, right here we have the flat. That is that flatter portion of the brisket whole. We have our point here, and this is the thing with the point and the flat, is the flat will go from here to probably about right here, right? And then the point sits on top of the flat. If you can, I'll show you this side, right? So you're gonna see this, okay? Gotta spread them cheeks up. And you see this portion right here, it is a fat vein that's going to run in between those two cuts on the whole brisket itself. Now, you have this irregular piece, you have this big hump in the middle, and so when you trim it, it's very important to trim it to get more even cooking, but also you don't want all this fat, because basically you render it in the smoker at that 225, which is where we smoke our briskets at. And you're rendering that fat, but you're not going to render off all of this fat. So then you have a whole hunk of fat on top of this brisket. You don't want all that nonsense, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to take bits of that fat right here, and we're probably at around like 1.5 inches thick here. We're going to start trimming that bad boy down. Now, the biggest thing is you always want to, when you're trimming stuff, you're going to want to angle your knife up a little bit, and that way you're not digging into the meat if you go a little too far, okay? But you're gonna wanna, get that fat off there. Now the best part of this fat is that if you want, you can make tallow out of this. You can put it in a crock pot with a little bit of water, let it hang out for a couple hours, and then strain it off, and then afterwards you got beef tallow. This is where people are probably going to be upset with me. There's a lot of people that like to square this up. They'll cut it here, right? And they'll cut it here. This is my thing. I don't like the fucking waste. Don't waste that shit. It's still meat. At the end of the day, if you get this down to a point where over the 15 hours, you got a beautiful juicy brisket at 225, and this piece is a little bit dried out. Guess what? Throw it in a crock pot with a little bit of barbecue sauce, and you got yourself some burnt ends. Why are you wasting that? Or why are you going to like identify it? Especially if you're only making one. I make like 8 and 12 at a grip. I'm going to get all I can out of it. But if you're doing that at home and you want to do it the way Franklin does it, hey, nothing against it. He's a master at his craft, but I don't do that. And I feel like my product is pretty damn good. I'm going to get some of that in there and finish. There you go. All right, now we're gonna flip it to the back. Boom! You got these nice chunks of fat back here too. Same thing. I'm just gonna get them off of there. Now on the back, I'm not super worried about getting it to the 1/8 of an inch thick because these are, I mean, honestly, if you wanted to, you could probably rip a lot of this stuff out because it doesn't have a lot of connective tissue. Like that, right? Like these pieces. It's basically like ripping silver skin off, okay? Now another spot where people are probably going to be contentious about it, but there's a fat piece that runs right here. I don't like the way it sits. It's a pretty large fat deposit, and so I'm going to kind of whittle out a bit of it and get it to sit a little flatter. And then also when I season and I'm getting in between the point and the flat here, that seasoning is going to go all over the place. Okay, so... more than enough fat to lubricate this piece of meat. All right, you see how it lays a little flatter there? That's what I like to see. All right, and when it comes to seasoning, one of the things that I think about brisket, much like most people who do this really well, is all this bad boy needs. A little bit of S&P. You're gonna throw a bunch of rub on this, a bunch of added flavoring, all that stuff. You're really taking away from the beef, right? I wanna taste the beef when I taste my brisket. And so I make a little mixture of 75% salt, 25% coarse ground black pepper. I wanna bite into smoky peppercorn, like crystals in my mouth. That's what I wanna bite into. You know what I mean? Good stuff. So we're going to be very liberal with this. It's one of those things. With this big hunk of meat, right? If you don't go liberally, you're going to end up with a very unseasoned brisket at the end. And it shows. Got to rub it into all the nooks and crannies. Massage that bad boy in there. Get the, oh yeah, get it. Ooh. Ooh. Flip that bad boy over because we're seasoning this whole thing. Okay? And that's what we want to see right there. Yeah. All the nooks and crannies. Get it all up in there. All right? All the sides here. Oh, singing my seasoning song. All right, that's what that bad boy wants to look like, okay? Now, this is the other thing. If you got the time, and not everyone does, but if you got the time, let this bad boy hang out for a couple hours, just like this, okay? You know, let that seasoning kind of really soak in, draw all that moisture to the outside, because that's how you get the best bark. Sometimes I let it sit for 7 hours with the seasoning on there before I even put it on the smoker. not tonight. We got an event going on. We need this brisket ASAP. So not happening tonight, but if you have the time and you have the will, try it out. You're not gonna be disappointed. All right, so trimming, seasoning a brisket. We're gonna throw it on the smoker, 225, 15-hour smoke on this bad boy. And we use oak, so it's gonna be a nice, even smoke. It's gonna really bring out and enhance all those beef flavors. Gonna be freaking great, all right? And I want you to come back when we take this off, because we're all gonna try it together. Well, I'll be hot damn. Look at that beautiful, beautiful brisket footage. So this is what we took off the smoker. All right, beautiful piece of meat here. Whoa, yikes. A little hot there. Love it. So what we did is we let this bad boy rest. It's been on the smoker for, like I said, about 14, 15 hours now. And so we let it rest for about an hour or so. And now we're gonna get into it, all right? So as we talked about earlier, this is the flat here, this is the point. When we threw a thermometer into this bad boy, 204 is when we pulled it out. And so it's gonna carry over a little bit, but that 195 to 205 is about the time where all that connective tissue inside this meat starts to kind of like melt away, and you're gonna get a beautifully tender brisket, and that's what we want to do here. So real quick, oh yeah, look at this bark too. Whoa. You hear that? I hear that. All right, so the best part about when we're cutting this too is that this goes in different directions. So all of this meat, the striations of the actual flat are gonna go like this. The fibers of the meat travel along lengthwise like this. Now the point, as it sits on top, what's gonna happen is the striations of the meat of the point go like this on a diagonal. So at about the half mark is where we're going to start to angle our blade to get the best possible cuts of meat. The other point that you could do is you could fully dislodge the point from the flat and then cut them separately. I don't like to do that because I like a nice like slice in the middle. And so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna cut it in half first just to check out what this looks like. I mean, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not even touching that blade and it's going through. No real. Oh, look at that bad boy. Oh, look at them juices. All right. Also, if you notice, look at that nice pronounced smoke ring here. That's what we want to see all the way through this meat. That looks fantastic. We're going to get a nice little slice down here too, because down here is where you're going to find, you can see, right? Look at all that juice that's left in there. So at the end of the day, low and slow is the way to go. Okay, folks? And let's get a nice slice here and try this bad boy. Now, the biggest thing is I want to hold it up. I want it to stay, oof, that's a little hot still. Okay? I want it to stay together. But when I pull, I want it to come apart just like that, okay? Whoa, my God. That is the way to go. You get all these nice little pepper, salt crystals as you're eating it. And the biggest thing about this is the fat cap that's on this and the fat throughout is what's going to translate that salt through the whole piece of meat, right? Fat will hold on to that. So it's really going to soak into that fat the most. And then as you cut it in, that's the reason why I like to cut a good portion of fat, but I'm not cutting all of that fat off. Cut all that fat off, you're left with a lean cut of meat. It's not going to, retain that that juiciness as much, and it's also going to get rid of some of that ability for the permeation of the salinity. Oh my God. Hell yeah. All right. Also, my God, that's a good brisket right there. This is the other thing I want to talk to you about. Fat. With the slow and low cooking, right? that piece of fat that you have at the top, it should do this, right? You see how it renders to the point where it just peels off, right? That's what you want to see. That's the best possible fat. You got fat, and when you do that, it doesn't budge or it's not breaking apart. Not good, okay? You want to get to the point where it's that. And then also, if you want, right, take a slab of this and just sear that in a pan and eat just the cracklings. Oh, my gosh. All right. So when you get to about, boom, 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 slice that all the way down here. When you get to about here, that's when, if you actually look, you can start to see a little bit of it, and we'll zoom in on that bad boy. But you'll start to see, you can see the striations of meat. You won't see them here because, again, we're going against the grain. But right here, you'll start to see the striations go like this. So that way, when you get to this point, you want to start slicing like that. And you're going to go against the grain on both slices of meat, both styles of meat. Okay? But again, get to this point. Right? And you got these beautiful pieces, right? That's the fat and the point together. Fuck, man. Fuck, man. Really fucking good. Anyway, I'll show you what happens when you cut. So you don't do this, but I'll show you what happens when you cut the point with the grain, right? You get what's known as stringers, right? And that means that you get a whole down the road stringy piece of meat like this. Now, unpalatable? Absolutely not. Still gonna eat, but when you do that, especially if you get long ones, it's like flossing with the whole fiber, right? You don't want to do that. Cut against the grain, you're gonna get a better palatable cut of meat. But who the fuck cares at the end of the day? Because fuck, that is real good. Fuck, man. Fuck. If you eat your brisket or you eat barbecue and you don't have feelings like this, fuck, you did something wrong. Get at me on the next episode. But this was Brisket on Dabble's Kitchen with Chef Alex. See you on the next one.